My name is Dan, and I am a dead man. I'm not dead in the conventional sense, not yet. My heart still beats, my lungs still draw air, but the person I was is gone, scraped out and hollowed, a shell waiting for the final collapse. It all started with a stupid, simple act of home renovation, a quest for character in a century-old house that had more secrets than I could possibly have imagined. The house on Hemlock Avenue was a Victorian monstrosity, all gabled roofs and peeling gingerbread trim, the kind of place kids on bikes would pedal past a little faster. I bought it for a song, a fixer-upper's dream, or so I told myself. The realtor had used words like charming and full of potential. She hadn't mentioned the way the floorboards groaned with the weight of nothing, or how the shadows in the long hallway seemed to cling just a little too thickly. I'd been there 3 weeks, tearing out outdated plumbing and wrestling with knob and tube wiring, when I decided to tackle the master bedroom. The floor was a patchwork of scarred, dark oak, but one board near the far wall, tucked behind where a heavy armoire must have stood for decades, was loose. I'd noticed it because my footfall there produced a different sound, a hollow, empty echo. Curiosity, that ancient killer of cats and men, got the better of me. I pried at the board with the claw of my hammer. It came up with a dry, splintering shriek, revealing a dark, cobweb-draped space beneath. The cavity was shallow, filled with the grey, granular dust of decades. And there, resting in the center of this forgotten tomb, as if it had been placed with care, was a book. It was a small, leather-bound diary, the cover stained a dark, mottled brown with age and something else I didn't want to identify. It felt greasy, cold despite the summer heat. There was no lock, just a simple, tarnished brass clasp. My rational mind, the part of me that still believed in a world governed by physics and reason, chalked it up to a fascinating historical find, a piece of the house's history. Maybe it contained ledgers from a shopkeeper, or the pressed flowers of a long-dead romantic. I was wrong. Sitting on a paint-splattered stool, I wiped the dust from the cover. There was no name, no inscription. I opened the clasp. The pages were brittle, the handwriting a tight, spidery cursive in faded black ink. The first entry was dated September 3rd, 1919. September the 3rd, 1919. The silence in this house is a physical thing. It presses on the eardrums, a weighty woolen quiet. Cora has been gone a month today. The doctor calls it a fever, but I know the truth. This house took her. It drinks the sound and the light, and it was thirsty for her laughter. Last night, I heard scratching from within the walls. Not rats, something deliberate, a slow, patient scraping, as if something were trying to find a way out, or in. A shiver, completely unrelated to the room's temperature, traced a path down my spine. Morbid, sure, but it was the grief-stricken rambling of a man who had lost his wife a century ago. I turned the page. September 17th, 1919, the scratching has found a new home. It is under the floorboards now, directly below my bed. I lay awake all night, my ear pressed to the floor, listening to it. It mimics the rhythm of a heartbeat, a slow, sluggish, wrong heartbeat. I pulled up the rug today, but the boards are sealed tight. I dare not break them. I fear what I might let in. I glanced over at the hole in my floor, the open mouth of the cavity. The dust within seemed to shift. I shook my head. Imagination. The power of suggestion. I read on. The entries grew more frantic, more unhinged. October 1st, 1919. I see it in the periphery. A tall, thin shadow where no shadow should be. It stands in the corner of the room, a stain upon the air. It has no face, only a terrible, profound depth. It watches me sleep. I have taken to keeping the oil lamp burning all night. The light does not banish it, but it seems to keep it at a distance. It does not like the light. October 15th, 1919. It speaks, not with a voice but inside my head. A dry, rustling whisper like pages turning in an ancient book. It tells me things. It tells me how Cora screamed. It tells me it is so very lonely. It asks for a name. It says it wants to wear me, to walk in my skin for a while. I have not slept in days. The whispers are constant now, a susurrating chorus at the edge of my thoughts. October 31st, 1919. This is my last entry. It has learned my name. It whispers it over and over. Alistair. It tastes the shape of it. It says our bones will be a fine home. It is coming through the floorboards tonight. I can feel its patience wearing thin. It has been waiting for a door. I think I was the door all along. God forgive me. The final entry ended there. Alistair. So that was his name. A profound sense of dread, cold and heavy, settled in my gut. This wasn't just a historical curiosity. It was a documented descent into madness, or something far, far worse. I slammed the diary shut, the sound unnaturally loud in the quiet room. I needed a drink. I needed to get out of this room. I shoved the diary back into the cavity and replaced the floorboard, hammering it down with a few frantic, heavy blows. It was just a story, I told myself. The ravings of a lonely, grieving man. I spent the rest of the day trying to lose myself in manual labor, the buzz of the saw drowning out the sudden, irrational fear that had taken root in my mind. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet. Not a peaceful quiet, but the woolen quiet Alistair had described. A silence that felt deliberate, suffocating. I lay in bed, my senses on high alert, every creak and groan of the old house sounding like a footstep, a breath. And then I heard it, a soft, slow, scraping sound, not from the walls, from under the floor, directly below my bed. My blood turned to ice. I froze, my muscles locking, my breath catching in my throat. I listened, straining my ears against the oppressive silence. There it was again. Scrape, pause, scrape. It was the sound of a fingernail, or something like a fingernail, being dragged across the underside of the floorboards. I fumbled for my phone on the nightstand, my hand trembling so violently I almost knocked it to the floor. I turned on the flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness, and pointed it at the floor. Nothing. Just the worn patterns of the wood grain. Scrape, scrape, scrape. It was directly beneath my pillow. I could feel the vibration through the mattress. I did the only thing my panic-stricken mind could conceive of. I slammed my fist down on the floor. The sound stopped. The silence that followed was even more terrifying. It was a listening silence. Nothing else happened that night. I didn't sleep. I sat with my back against the headboard, a baseball bat in my lap, staring into the darkness until the grey light of dawn filtered through the windows. The next day, I was a wreck. I tried to convince myself it had been a mouse, or the house settling, but the sound had been too localized, too deliberate. I avoided the master bedroom, working instead on the downstairs bathroom, but the memory of the diary was a poison in my veins. I had to get rid of it. After a breakfast I didn't eat, I marched back upstairs, my resolve firm. I would pull up the board, take the cursed thing out into the backyard, and burn it. Ashes couldn't whisper. Ashes Carl couldn't scratch. I knelt by the loose floorboard and pried it up again. The cavity was empty. My heart plummeted into my stomach. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. It was gone. The diary was gone. I scrambled back, my mind reeling. Had I imagined it? No. The memory of the greasy leather, the spidery writing, was too vivid. I shoved my hand into the cavity, feeling around in the dust, hoping it had just fallen to the side. My fingers brushed against something cold and smooth. It wasn't the diary. It was a single, long, yellowed fingernail. I recoiled, wiping my hand on my jeans with a gasp of revulsion. That's when I saw it. On the dust-covered surface of the floorboard I'd just pried up, there was a message, written in the same grey dust as the cavity. The handwriting was a frantic, shaky version of the cursive I'd seen in the diary. You should not have read us. The world tilted. A high-pitched ringing started in my ears. It was here, in my house, and it knew I had read the diary. The us in the message echoed in my head. Alistair and the thing from the diary were no longer separate. They were a collective, a we. I fled the house, not even bothering to grab my wallet or keys. I sat in my car, parked haphazardly on the street, and trembled. What was I supposed to do? Call the police? Hello, officers. A dead man's diary is writing messages to me in dust. They'd have me committed. I spent the day at a coffee shop, trying to think, to plan. Maybe I could sell the house, but who would buy it? And could I, in good conscience, pass this curse on to another family? The thought of going back inside made me feel physically ill. But as night began to fall, I had nowhere else to go. I was trapped. I returned as the sun dipped below the horizon, the house a hulking black silhouette against the purple sky. It seemed to watch me approach, a patient predator. I unlocked the front door, the click of the latch sounding like a gunshot in the stillness. The air inside was different, colder, heavier. It smelled faintly of dust and decay, of old books and damp soil. I turned on every light I passed, a trail of illumination through the dark rooms. But the darkness seemed to push back, making the bulbs flicker and dim. I made my way to the kitchen, my sanctuary of modernity, and poured myself a generous measure of whiskey. My hand was still shaking so badly the bottle clattered against the glass. I drank it in one burning gulp, hoping the alcohol would steady my nerves. It didn't. That's when I heard the whisper. It was so faint, I almost missed it. A thread of sound woven into the hum of the refrigerator. Dan. It was the sound of dry leaves skittering across pavement, of brittle bones rubbing together. It came from the hallway. I spun around, my back against the counter, my heart hammering against my ribs. Who's there? No answer, just the oppressive silence. And then, another whisper. This one from right behind me, so close I could feel a puff of cold, stale air on my neck. "We see you," I screamed, a raw, ragged sound, and stumbled away from the counter, whipping around. The kitchen was empty. I was alone, but I wasn't. The feeling of being watched was so intense, it was a physical pressure. It was in the room with me. I ran. I abandoned my drink, my phone, my sanity, and I bolted up the stairs to the one room that felt the least contaminated, the small guest bedroom. I slammed the door shut and shoved a chair under the knob, a pathetic, flimsy barricade. I curled up on the bed, pulling the blankets over my head like a child, trembling uncontrollably. The whispers started again, not from one place, but from all around me. They were inside the room, inside my head. The door is open, Dan. We have been waiting for a new home. Alistair grew so tired, so brittle. Your bones are so much stronger. I clamped my hands over my ears, but it was useless. The voice wasn't entering through my ears. It was blooming directly in my consciousness. Do not fear the dark, Dan. You will become part of it. Then, the scratching started. Not from under the floor this time. From the other side of the door. A slow, patient scraping sound moving up and down the wood. I could picture it. A long, yellowed nail, just like the one I'd found in the cavity, dragging across the painted surface. Scrape, scrape, scrape. It went on for hours. I don't know when I passed out from sheer exhaustion, but the last thing I remember was the scratching stopping and the doorknob beginning to turn, slowly, deliberately, testing the chair I'd lodged beneath it. I woke to sunlight. The room was bright, normal. The chair was still in place. The horrors of the night felt like a bad dream, the fading remnants of a fever. My body ached with a deep psychic fatigue. I listened. The house was silent. Not the listening silence of before, but the normal empty quiet of an old building. Had I imagined it all? A stress-induced psychotic break? It seemed more plausible than the alternative. Cautiously, I removed the chair and opened the door. The hallway was empty. I crept downstairs, every sense screaming in alarm. The kitchen was as I'd left it, the glass of whiskey still on the counter. Everything was normal, too normal. It was then I noticed the book on the kitchen table, the diary. It was lying there closed, as if someone had placed it there for me to find. My breath hitched. It was real. All of it was real. I approached it slowly, as one would a venomous snake. The cover seemed darker, the leather more supple, as if it had been nourished. I knew, with a cold, certain dread, that I had to open it. I had to see. My fingers trembled as I reached for the tarnished clasp. I flipped it open. The pages were no longer brittle and yellowed. They were smoother, stronger. The ink was no longer faded. It was a fresh, deep black. And the writing was different. It was my handwriting. My breath left my body in a horrified gasp. I stumbled back from the table, my legs giving way, and I collapsed to the floor. No, it wasn't possible. I forced myself to my feet and looked again. There was no mistaking it. The lazy slant, the specific way I crossed my T's, it was mine. The entry was dated for yesterday. Yesterday's date. The scratching under the floor is getting worse. I can't sleep. I think the previous owner, Alistair, left something behind in this house. Something that doesn't want me here. I found one of his fingernails under the floorboard. I think I'm losing my mind. I frantically flipped through the pages. The entire diary was being rewritten. Entries from weeks ago in my hand, describing my growing unease, the sounds, the shadows. It was documenting my haunting in real time, but backdating it, weaving my experiences into its own horrific narrative, making me a character in its story. It was assimilating me. The final entry was the one that broke me. It was dated for today. Today's date. The door is almost open. I can feel it wearing my skin, learning the fit. The whispers are a comfort now. They promise I won't be alone. Alistair is here with me. We will be a we. It's so much easier to stop fighting, to let the dark in. I think I'll go down to the basement. It's always darkest there. I screamed and hurled the book across the room. It hit the wall with a dull thud and fell to the floor, splayed open. I didn't wait to see what happened. I ran. I ran out of the house, out into the front yard, and I kept running until my lungs burned and my legs failed me. I'm writing this from a motel room 20 miles away. The cheap, floral curtains are drawn tight, and every light is on. I've been here for 2 days. I thought I was safe. I thought I had escaped. I was wrong. Last night, I woke up needing to use the bathroom. The digital clock on the nightstand read 3:07 a.m. The room was silent. As I walked back to the bed, I caught my reflection in the dark television screen. I looked haggard, terrified, but that wasn't what made me stop. For just a fraction of a second, my reflection didn't move with me. It stood still, its head tilted, and its mouth was stretched into a wide, impossibly long smile. And its eyes, they were just pools of absolute blackness. I spun around, my heart in my throat, but there was nothing behind me. When I looked back at the screen, my reflection was my own again, a mask of sheer terror. This morning, I went to get a coffee from the diner next door. When I came back and placed the styrofoam cup on the dresser, I noticed a thin layer of dust had settled on the dark wood surface. I went to wipe it away with my hand but stopped. There, written in the dust, was a single word. Soon. It's not in the house. It never was just in the house. It's in the diary, and the diary is with it. And it has my scent. It has learned my name. I'm a dead man. I know that now. This thing, this watcher, this wearer of skin, is patient. It has waited a century. It can wait a little longer. It will follow me, from motel to motel, from town to town. It will whisper to me in the dark, show me its face in every reflective surface, write its messages in the dust of my life until my resistance is gone. And when I am too tired to run, too broken to fight, I will do what it wants. I will go down into the dark, wherever it is darkest, and I will open the door. I will let it in, and my name, Dan, will become a whisper in its rustling chorus. Another soul trapped in the greasy leather of that damn diary, waiting for the next curious soul to set us free. So if you're reading this, if you find a small, leather-bound book tucked away in a forgotten place, in an attic, a basement, or under the floorboards, don't open it. Don't read its words, because it's not just a story, it's an invitation, and it's always looking for new doors to open.